everyone, it's Jean from the Inky Owl Studio. So I'm starting a new project and it's going to be an envelope type of a journal made entirely out of envelopes. And you can work this project two ways. You can use junk mail envelopes to do this with, or you can make your own envelopes. So I'm doing a little of both. What I did was I got some templates of envelopes. This is like a coin envelope template, and use a couple more templates here. I also used my envelope punch board to make envelopes. You can probably search Pinterest or probably even Google envelope templates and get some down that way. Or actually, you can take a commercial envelope and steam it open and trace around it. So there's different ways of getting that. And so I got these templates and I just printed out papers that I wanted to use, and on one side was my design, and then I printed a tea stain, kind of a plain digital on the other side so that it wasn't like stark white. Nothing's wrong with white, that might be the look you would like to have, but that's how I did mine. And then I cut them out and I made a whole bunch. I probably made more than I needed, but I think in the end I made about 20 envelopes, because that's actually I made more. I made like 25 envelopes, but I think I'm going to be using 25 in this particular journal. So after I did that, I did want to show you how I used the junk mail envelopes. Now, I did dip a piece of junk mail, like this was all sealed up when I got junk mail, and of course, and I just slit open part of it to get my context out. But when I put it in, sometimes when you put them in to soak and tea stain them in a pan of tea or something, they will sometimes come apart. And so when that happens, I just lay it out to dry, fully apart, all the ends and everything, and then you can reconstruct it back again. And this, of course, was too long, so I cut off how short I wanted it and cut the flap and put a piece of paper to wrap up some of the wording, and so that you can also go in here with your card later on. And that's how I did this one, but not all of them do that. Some of them just come out like this and it's all sealed up except for where I put a slit in right here to get out the contacts. So some of them don't come apart, and that's perfectly fine. So I will show you what I'm going to do, how I'm going to make this into an envelope. Now, instead of getting into the envelope on the side, you'll be getting into the envelope from the top. And that's how these junk mail envelopes will be working for you. So I'm going to cut it down. I want it to be similar to what I've got in here. So yeah, I probably want it to end up being about, this tall, somewhere's in here, maybe not exactly, but within a little bit. And then I'm going to add a 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to approximate it right about here. Now, with this added amount, and it will depend on how heavy a paper your envelope was. This was actually pretty heavy envelope, but they're not always heavy like this. Sometimes they are thin. So I'm just going to snip it down, just like not even quite a 1/2 inch. And what I want to do is I want to fold these on the inside, and this way it will make that entry strong when you put things in and out of it all the time. So we'll just put that down there. And I know what I do too. I also miter the corners just a little bit. That does make it easier. I haven't done it for a while. And I just fold it in to the inside, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of glue in there, just to hold it, just to glue it down. And that way, I think it makes it a little stronger than if you just used it without doing that. That's just what I like to do. You don't have to. But let me just get these down here, and I'll miter this here. Sorry about forgetting that. So this envelope journal, I found how to do this. Jane Chipp at the Graphics Fairy had a flip through of a journal in which she is doing what I'm doing here. And I got the idea of making the journal from her. And I really thought it was just a new way of doing one, and I have never tried before. So now this envelope is ready to use in the journal, and yeah, and it's a junk mail thing. So I just wanted to share that with you. And also another thing too is that she has some glassine envelopes, and I don't have glassine envelopes that are as large as I wanted, but I do have a bag. So I pea stained this bag, and I'm just going to make an envelope out of this. And what I'll do is I will measure, let's see, measure down to about, let's see, I am eyeing it up. About right here is about how tall I want my envelope to be. So I am just going to cut the sides down to that little point on each side. So I'm just going to make an envelope out of the bag. And then I'm going to cut it across here, but I'm leaving about a ½ inch from where I want the border to be, about that. And you're probably going to guess what I'm going to do. I'm going to miter the corners, and I'm going to fold it down because glassine is a little on the thin side. And I'm going to fold it to the front first, and then fold it to the inside, like so. And that just strengthens that little area up a little bit. And I will glue that down. And so the upper part of this then will be the flap that goes over the envelope. So very easy peasy. Just a way to make an envelope out of a bag. Now you may not want that tall of a flap. So let me just come down. So I'm going to fold it down just a little bit because I want enough area here to pull out my card. So I'm leaving like a ½ inch there. And for me, this will work for a flap. But if this is too long, I would have cut it down a little bit more. So that is just a way of turning the bag into an envelope format to use in this journal. And I'm saving this because we can collage with that. So those are just the two little ideas that I was thinking of in order to make envelopes. Now the next thing is that the structure of the journal is going to be like this. We're going to have two envelopes that are connected with some kind of substrate, some kind of a paper in here. Now she used rice paper, which I do not have, but I do have mulberry paper. I have quite a few sheets of this white mulberry paper, and it's pretty strong, and yet it's thin. I think the idea is not to make this too awful thick, because you're going to be piling this on top of one another with different layers of envelopes connected together, and that is going to be sewn into your as a signature. So I chose the mulberry paper. You probably could use cloth, but it would be kind of bulky in the end, but you could use little pieces of muslin. You could just use paper, just plain paper. However you want to connect that. I thought the muslin was just interesting looking. Now I do have the white, and I didn't want white, and so I chose to take this Distress Collage Medium, Tim Holtz Ranger, and it instead of white like Mod Podge, it has as you can see, this yellowy tint to it. So that is what I'm going to use to glue my envelopes together and to make the paper not quite so white looking. And let me just pull out 2 pieces to put together. So I'm going to go ahead and put these 2 envelopes together. Now, the ones on the left, or at least this is the way I'm setting mine up, the ones on the left will be facing down, the front will face down, and the front will face up on the right. So the idea is that as you flip through, you're always going to have the face of the envelope. And make sure that the flat part is free. It's, that's not the part you're gluing. You want to glue the bottom of the envelope. And that's the way I am setting mine up. Now you could vary it if you wanted to have sometimes see the front when you turn, sometimes you want to see the flap. It just depends. But this is the way that I'm going to set mine up. And let me get my paper. Alrighty, and I'm going to open this up and get my brush. There we go. So I'm just going to use this collage medium as the glue to attach my envelope with. And so these strips are about 2 by 4.5 inches. And they should be fine. It should be enough. Should be enough of support for the envelope. And I suppose you could run it all the way, but she didn't. So that's what I'm not going to do that either. And we will get the second one on over here. Now when you put them together, you want to leave about a 1/2 inch, or maybe 3/4 of an inch actually. I think it was 3/4 of an inch that I left between the 2 envelopes. Yeah. So about 3/4 of an inch. So that you can, have room, well, I don't think that's quite right, so that you can have room to do your stitching and put them together. So there needs to be a little room between the 2 envelopes. Okay, I'm just trying to get this even. There we go. I think that's pretty even. And then I'm going to just stain this part as well. So I'm going to run some of that collage medium inside the mulberry paper. And of course, you don't have to do this if you are happy with what you're using to put them together with. There we are. And so now you've got this one and this one as you flip through on your journal. And being that this is now really wet and it's going to bubble and do everything. So if you're not going to use Mod Podge or the this medium, you can just glue these together. You don't have to do it this way. You can just use your regular glue that you use, your glitter glue or whatever. All right, and then I'm just going to set it up like this to dry someplace since both sides are kind of wet. And then when I get done, or when it gets dried up, then it will look like this here. And so the idea is just to do each signature, figure out how many envelopes you want. And so I plan to put 10 envelopes in each signature and just keep on making, 5 sets of these for each signature. And then, yeah, now if you have different sizes, which is what I would like to do, I am going to put these two together. And I think what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to cut this down to the size of my 2 smaller envelopes in the end, and probably glue this together and just cut it off there. That's what I'll most likely end up doing for the smaller ones. But you can play around with that a little bit. And so that is basically what I'm going to be doing here. And eventually I will be making a cover, and I haven't decided on the cover yet. I think I'm going to go with fabric, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a Tim Holtz fabric and make a cover out of it to sew these in with. But that'll be the last thing I do. I'm going to go ahead and attach all my envelopes, and then I'm going to decorate them. And maybe next time we get together, I'll have all these glued together and we can decorate a few together. Thanks a lot for viewing. I hope you subscribe so that you can see how this little envelope journal comes along. And you have a great and crafty day. Bye.